There's a tower deep in the Montana woods that no one volunteers to work in anymore, because the radio crackles every night with the same voice of a man who died almost 3 decades ago. And once you answer him, you might not come back either. They say it's just a story to scare the new guys, something they pass around the break room when the nights start getting long and the snow traps you in. But after what happened last fall, I don't laugh at those stories anymore, especially not the one about Tower 9. I work fire watch up here in the Bitterroot National Forest, one of the loneliest assignments in the state. You're miles from the next human, and all you've got for company is a shortwave radio, a logbook, and whatever's hiding in the dark. Our towers are spread thin, maybe a dozen across hundreds of square miles, and most of them haven't been renovated since the 70s. Tower 9 is one of the oldest. It's also the only one people refuse to be assigned to. No one says it out loud. They'll just shake their head or fake a scheduling conflict. Some even ask to take double shifts somewhere else just to avoid it. But the reason is always the same. It's because of Cal Merritt. Cal was a ranger stationed at Tower 9 back in 1996. Been with the service almost 15 years. Reliable. Quiet. A bit of a loner, but those types usually last longer up here. One morning, after a snowstorm passed, they found his tower empty. No signs of a struggle. Logbook half filled. Coffee still warm. He was gone. Just gone. The official report said he must have wandered off into the woods during the storm. Disoriented. Maybe hypothermia. Happens more than you think. But anyone who's worked up here knows better. You don't leave the tower unless something calls you out. Something that makes you forget everything you've learned about staying alive. After Cal disappeared, Tower 9 stayed empty for a while. Then they started rotating rookies through it, ignoring the warnings. A couple of them quit on the first night. One locked himself in the supply closet and refused to come out until morning. Said the radio kept turning on by itself. Said he heard someone whispering his name. Eventually, they just stopped assigning that tower altogether. And then last September, we got a call. I was working Tower 3 that week, North Ridge, solid visibility. I was halfway through my shift when I picked up something weird on Channel 7. That's our general frequency, used for check-ins and weather reports. It's monitored by everyone in the district. It started with static, then a burst of breathing. Not fast or panicked. Just there. Then a voice I hadn't heard before came through. "This is Tower 9. Requesting status check." Over. I froze. No one had reported going up to Tower 9. It wasn't in the roster. The building had been boarded up for over a year. I double-checked the schedule, thinking maybe there was some maintenance crew sent in without my knowledge. Nothing. I replied cautious. "Copy Tower 9. This is Tower 3. Confirm your name and reason for transmission." Over. Long pause. Then, "This is Ranger Merritt. Cal Merritt. Status, all clear. Just checking the perimeter." I didn't respond. Couldn't. The air inside the tower felt heavy, like the walls were closing in. I remembered the name immediately. Everyone does. Another ranger came on the line a few seconds later. Jules from Tower 7. He sounded nervous. Tower 9, say again? Who gave you authorization to check in?" Silence. Then the same voice again, but slower. "Still watching. Still listening. Are you?" After that, the radio cut out. They sent a team the next morning. Tower 9 was locked from the inside. When they forced the door open, the place was exactly how Cal had left it in '96. Same logbook, same thermos, now long empty and rusted. But the radio? It was still on, still warm, and set to Channel 7. They ran diagnostics. No signs of tampering. No footprints in or out. The tower hadn't been accessed since the last documented cleanup months prior. The higher-ups dismissed it as a prank. Someone messing around with old equipment. Maybe some squatter with a scanner. But that didn't explain the voice. Anyone who knew Cal said it was his. Exact tone. Exact words he used on check-ins. We tried to forget it. I really did. But then it happened again. Not just on Channel 7. On others too. At night. At odd hours. And always the same thing. Still watching. Still listening. Only now, the voice doesn't always come from Tower 9. Sometimes it comes through the radios of rangers hundreds of miles apart. Sometimes it comes when you're not even on duty. And sometimes it whispers your name. After that first night, I started leaving my radio off after dark. I know we're not supposed to. It's against protocol. But I couldn't stand hearing that voice again. Not when the forest was dead silent. Not when the wind started carrying shapes. They say the brain fills in the gaps when you're alone too long. Start stitching sounds that aren't there. Faces in the grain of the wood. A cough behind you that never happened. But this wasn't that. This was the voice of a dead man answering roll call. 2 days later, I got a visit at the base station from a senior ranger named Wade. Older guy, beard down to his chest, skin like cured leather. Been around longer than anyone. He doesn't usually talk much, but when he heard I was stationed near Tower 9, he pulled me aside. "You hear him yet?" he asked. I didn't answer. He nodded like he knew anyway. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. "That radio ain't broken. It's not some transmission bouncing off old towers. That's not how this works. Cal's still in there. Something's keeping him." I tried to laugh it off. Said maybe someone recorded his voice and was playing tricks. Wade didn't even blink. "It's not a recording if it answers your questions." I didn't know what to say, but I noticed the scar on his neck, a long white seam stretching to his collarbone. He saw me looking. First time I heard it, I answered back. Didn't sleep for 3 nights. Tower doors rattled like someone wanted in. When I opened the hatch the next morning, there were boot prints in the snow that circled the tower 5 times. Only problem? They were all mine. I wanted to ask more, but he walked off without another word. That night, I kept the radio off again. I stared at it for hours. Every creak in the tower made my muscles tighten. The wood groaned with the wind like it was mourning something. And around 2:12 a.m., I heard static, even though the damn radio wasn't on. I checked the power. It was dead. I had pulled the battery. And still, the sound crawled out of the speaker like something alive. No words. Just that static. Sharp. Aggressive. Almost wet. I shoved the whole unit into my bag and went outside. Stood in the freezing dark with the wind howling around me. I told myself I'd throw it down the ridge if it kept going. But it stopped. And from across the valley, I saw the top of Tower 9 light up. The thing is, there's no power out there. The generators were pulled years ago. The tower shouldn't even have a working bulb. But it was glowing. Dim but steady. Like someone had lit a lantern behind the windows. And then I heard him again, only now not through the radio. He was closer. Still watching. I backed into the tower and locked the hatch. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I got on the general line and asked if anyone had reported activity near Tower 9. Nobody had, but Jules from Tower 7 chimed in again. "You heard it again, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He continued. "I did too, except mine was different." He asked me to come help. Said something was wrong with the stairs. That's when I knew it wasn't just my mind playing tricks. Whatever this was, it wasn't just repeating phrases. It was learning. It was adapting. And it remembered who answered. Over the next week, for more rangers reported strange signals. Some heard the breathing. Others said they got full check-ins from Ranger Merritt. One rookie even claimed to see someone moving inside the tower, pacing back and forth. He quit the next day. Said he dreamed he climbed the tower stairs only to find no top. Just more stairs, winding into the dark. It was spreading. One of the guys down south tried to debunk it. Brought in a frequency scanner, an EM field detector, even some kind of amateur radio triangulation rig. He stayed overnight in a backup cabin near the base of Tower 9. He didn't last long. Next morning, his gear was fried. The scanner's screen had melted inward like it had been microwaved. The EM detector wouldn't stop screeching, and the audio logs he recorded were nothing but what sounded like whispers saying the same word over and over. Stay. He left that same day. Never came back. I know what you're thinking. Why not just shut the tower down? Burn it, collapse it, whatever it takes. But that's the problem. Every time someone tries, something stops them. Last winter, a demolition crew sent to dismantle Tower 9 skidded off a snow-covered service road before they even reached it. 2 dead. The 3rd survivor said he saw headlights ahead of him just before the crash, 2 high beams staring from the trees. But there was no road there. No vehicle. Just miles of forest. No one's volunteered since. And yet the tower remains. It's become something else now. Less of a place and more of a presence. Some nights, it's not even visible from where it should be. Just gone. Other nights, it's somehow closer than it was the day before. As if the forest is shifting around it. Or maybe it's the tower that's moving. And always the same voice. Same words. Only now it's been calling my name. The first time I saw the lights up close, I wasn't even scheduled to be near Tower 9. I was filling in for a guy down at the lookout on Ridge Line 4, a post that technically shouldn't have visibility that far east. But that night, something was off. The tree line looked different, distorted, like the horizon had shifted, or maybe the world had tilted just enough to show me something I wasn't supposed to see. And there it was, Tower 9 lit up like Christmas, every window glowing with a pale yellow light. Too soft to be electric, too steady to be fire. It pulsed like it was breathing. I radioed Central to ask if anyone had reactivated the structure. They came back with a confused negative. But then I heard a click. Not from my radio. From behind me. I turned so fast I nearly slipped off the platform. But there was no one there. Just my own cabin door, slightly open. I know I locked it. I always lock it. Inside, the place smelled wrong. Like damp earth. Like something had tracked in soil from deep, untouched woods. There were prints on the floor, not boots, but bare feet. Long, narrow. Toes that curled at unnatural angles, like they'd never worn shoes in their life. I backed out slowly, shut the door, and didn't go back in until morning. That's when I saw the signal. On the window, right where the condensation was thickest, someone, or something, had drawn a spiral. One long, continuous spiral starting from the center and curling outward. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, etched by a finger, a human one. Later that day, I tried to laugh it off. Told myself I was sleep-deprived. Maybe I'd imagined it all. But as I walked the edge of the ridge to check trail markers, I saw something that made me stop cold. Another spiral, this time carved into a tree trunk. Deep and jagged, and fresh. I started noticing more of them after that. Spirals in the dirt, in ash piles, scratched into bark, even traced in the frost on my rear window. Always the same shape. Always the same direction. I told myself they were just animal markings or bored hikers or some bizarre coincidence. But then came the night I saw the lights, moving. I had binoculars trained on the tree line when I noticed something strange. The tower lights were swaying. Not flickering. Not dimming. Swaying. Like the entire structure was breathing. Expanding and contracting. Then one light detached. Just slid away from the others like it had grown legs. It drifted into the trees, weaving through the black pines like it knew the path by heart. And then another followed, and another, until there was a whole procession of pale, glowing orbs dancing into the woods. I couldn't move. I should have called it in. I should have documented it. Instead, I watched. Silent. Frozen. Then I realized they were heading toward me. I backed into the cabin and killed all lights. Sat in the dark with my ears straining and my heart pounding so loud I couldn't tell if I was hearing footsteps or just my own panic. Outside, I saw shadows pass by the windows. Tall, thin, bent at the middle like they were sniffing along the walls. I didn't breathe. I didn't even blink. Then the radio switched on. And this time, it wasn't static. It was music. Old country. The kind they played in diners back in the 50s. Soft, low, filled with dust and sorrow. It played for exactly 12 seconds. Then the voice came back. Tower 3, do you copy? I didn't answer. Tower 3 status check. This is Ranger Merritt. Please respond. Still I said nothing. Just stared at the speaker like it might sprout teeth. A pause. Then softer. You're close now. You're getting warmer. The radio clicked off. I didn't sleep at all. The next day, I packed up early and requested reassignment. Said I was feeling sick. Said I needed to head down to base for evaluation. They didn't question it. They'd heard the same things before from others who had stayed too long up here. As I left, I passed Tower 9 one last time from the valley road. It looked taller. That sounds insane, I know. But the structure seemed to stretch higher than I remembered. Like it had added another segment to itself. Another layer. Or maybe the forest was just swallowing everything else. Even from that distance, I swear I saw something at the top. A figure. Standing in the window, still as death, with its hand pressed against the glass. Watching. I blinked, and it was gone. Back at the ranger station, I tried to put some distance between me and everything that had happened in the tower sector. I focused on maintenance reports, vehicle logs, even cleaning gear. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off the spirals. But it followed me. The first morning after reassignment, I walked out to the garage and found a spiral etched into the windshield of my truck. Not with dirt or condensation. It was carved, etched with something sharp and precise. The glass felt almost melted at the edges of the grooves, like it had been burned in. The second was inside the mess hall, drawn onto the underside of my plate with a black grease pencil. Nobody owned up to it. Nobody even laughed. Most people just went quiet when they saw it. By the end of the week, they were everywhere. On clipboards, on trail maps. One was even on a call log, buried under a coffee ring, but clear as day when the stain dried. A perfect spiral, curling clockwise. It didn't feel like a prank anymore. And then I realized something that chilled me to the bone. Every spiral was different in size, but identical in ratio. Same spacing, same curvature, no deviations. Almost calculated. I mentioned it to Wade, hoping he'd brush it off and tell me it was all in my head. Instead, he pulled a folded paper from his jacket and smoothed it on the desk. Another spiral. Crude, hand-drawn, but unmistakable. Found that in a bunker up north near Lost Horse Creek. Old fire shelter from the 50s. Locked from the inside. No one's touched it in decades. He stared at the paper like it might bite him. There were 37 spirals in there. On the walls. On the floor. Even carved into the bunk frame. And all of them were different sizes, but the exact same shape. I asked him what it meant. He didn't speak right away. Just traced the spiral with a thick, cracked finger. Some say it's a symbol. Others think it's a map. But the ones who really pay attention, like you and me, they know it's not either. It's not a drawing. It's a warning. A warning of what? Wade didn't answer. He just folded the paper again, slower this time, and slipped it back into his coat. Then he looked me dead in the eyes. You ever wonder why the towers were built where they are? I paused, caught off guard. They follow the ridgelines. Best visibility. That's standard. He nodded. That's what they say. But if you overlay the tower coordinates with these spirals... He let the words hang in the air, unfinished. Later that night, I broke protocol again and accessed the old radio logs. I wanted to see if I could find proof, anything to show that others had heard what I did. I dug through years of dusty files, unmarked recordings, and decades of call signs. It took hours, but eventually I found it. A transmission from 1996, dated 3 days before Cal Merritt disappeared. This is Tower 9, Ranger Merritt reporting. Visibility low. Unusual movement at tree line. Strange lights. Possible hikers off trail. Investigating shortly. Then a pause. Seeing patterns. Ground markings. Spiral formations in the snow. Clockwise orientation. Not natural. Repeating over and over. Another pause. A click. Then one final line. If I don't report back by sunrise, tell them not to follow the lights. That was it. The next entries were from search teams reporting an empty tower. No footprints. No sign of a struggle. Just one thermos of coffee still warm. I printed the log and stared at it until my eyes burned. The time stamps lined up almost exactly with what I had experienced weeks ago. Same lights. Same spiral shapes. Same silence after. But there was one more thing I noticed, a gap. A stretch of 2 full hours missing from the tape. Erased. Corrupted. No explanation. I went to bed that night with the log beside me, like it might protect me from what was coming. But dreams have no locks. I saw the tower in my sleep. Not just from a distance, but from inside. Wooden floorboards creaked beneath me. The walls pulsed like lungs. And on every surface, every inch of that damn place, spirals. Spinning. Flickering. Shimmering with something wet and moving underneath. Like skin stretched thin over something alive. In the center of the room was the radio. Old, cracked, its dials worn smooth. It spoke before I touched it. You're not supposed to be here. I tried to speak, but my mouth was full of ash. My limbs wouldn't move. You heard me. That makes you part of this now. Then the walls started to melt. Not like ice, but like wax. Heavy and slow, and impossibly thick. Behind them, shadows writhed. Limbs bent wrong. Faces pressed against the thinning walls, but they had too many eyes. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. And on the wall beside my bed, written in frost, still watching. I left for base at dawn, clutching the radio logs like a lifeline. But I knew deep down, I was already too far in. Whatever this was, it wasn't confined to Tower 9 anymore. It had followed me home. A week passed before I saw the tower again. This time not from a distance, not through binoculars or in a dream. I saw it up close. I stood at the base of Tower 9, boots sinking slightly into the mossy earth, radio silent in my hand. I don't remember the drive. I don't remember packing or requesting access. One moment I was at the ranger station, checking trail reports. And the next, I was parked on the overgrown access road that winds through the trees like a forgotten artery. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the forest, and in front of me the tower waited. Just as it always had. Silent. Too tall. Wrong. Up close, it didn't look abandoned anymore. The boards that had once sealed the door were gone. The hinges were polished. The path leading to the bottom stair was cleared of snow and debris, like someone, or something, had swept it clean for a guest. I should have turned around. I should have gotten back in the truck and radioed for backup. But instead, I reached for the handle. It was warm. The air inside smelled like pine and static. Dust swirled in the last rays of sun leaking through the slats, but the dust didn't fall, it rose, spiraling upward toward the ceiling. Everything was quiet. No wind. No creaking. Just the sound of my boots on the first wooden step. I told myself I was only going to check the base. Just look around, document anything unusual, get out. But once I climbed a few stairs, I felt something shift in the air. Not pressure, direction. Like the air was flowing upward, guiding me higher. Every few steps, I paused to listen. Nothing. And then on the 7th step, I saw the first anomaly. My own footprints. Fresh. Deep. Perfect. Coming down. I hadn't made them. They were facing the opposite direction. But they matched my boots. Same size. Same wear. Same exact tread. I tried to ignore it, chalk it up to coincidence. Maybe I had climbed part of the tower once before and forgotten. Maybe. But then I passed the same crack in the railing, twice. It looked like lightning had hit the wood. A long splintered groove carved into the beam. The first time I noted it. The second time I stopped. This wasn't just a tall tower. It was repeating. I turned around and tried to go down, but the staircase kept climbing no matter which direction I walked. The steps changed slightly each time. New knots in the wood, different carvings, some spirals, others more crude. But the layout stayed the same. The angle, the dimensions, the endless ascent. After 10 full rotations, the air began to hum. Faint at first, then louder. A low, vibrating tone that seemed to resonate through the structure itself. My teeth ached. My skin buzzed. I looked up and saw light. Faint. Golden. Pulsing from a hatch above me. I climbed faster. My body ached, lungs burning from the cold, dry air, but something in me needed to reach the top. To see if it was real. And when I reached the landing, I stopped. There was no hatch. No ceiling. Just more stairs. Except they were upside down. Inverted. Stretching beneath me into the dark below, but still above me somehow. It made no sense. Gravity didn't care. I blinked, and the stairs snapped back to normal. And standing on the next landing was a figure. He looked like me. Same jacket. Same boots. Same radio clipped to the shoulder strap. He didn't speak. He just stared, head tilted slightly like a confused animal. Then he turned and climbed another step, vanishing around the next bend. I followed. I don't know why. I couldn't stop myself. I reached the final landing, or what felt like the final landing, and stepped into the cabin. Inside was a chair, a desk, a radio. The same radio from the photos in the archive. The same dented casing. The same frayed cord. It was already on. No static. Just breathing. Slow. Deliberate. Then a voice. "You're late." I backed away, heart pounding. The room felt smaller than it should. Closer. The walls breathing again. Spirals flickered on every surface, burned into the wood, etched into the glass of the windows. "You were supposed to relieve me." I waited. I turned toward the door, but it was gone. The frame remained, but the exit behind it was nothing but darkness. A void that pulsed in rhythm with the radio signal. Then I heard the footsteps again, coming up the stairs. Slow. Heavy. Whoever, or whatever, was behind me had followed. The radio clicked. You'll get used to it. Eventually. The window beside me flashed with light. Not lightning. Not fire. Something older. Something watching. I looked down, and there were spirals carved into the backs of my hands. Not ink. Not blood. Burned in. I closed my eyes and whispered something, anything, but my voice didn't make a sound. Because in that moment, I wasn't there anymore. I was on the stairs again. Back at the start. Boots sinking into the mossy ground. Staring up at Tower 9. And once again, the door was open. The next time I opened my eyes, I was back in my cabin at the base station. Radio humming low. Lights off. No memory of driving back. No log entry. No sign-out record. Just a half-empty thermos of cold coffee beside me, like nothing had changed. But everything had. My hands still bore the spiral scars. Angry, red, raised. I didn't report it. What was I supposed to say? Hey, I accidentally wandered into a tower that doesn't obey the rules of time and space, possibly met my own double, and now the radio won't stop whispering in my sleep. They would have pulled me from duty, sent me to the city, maybe locked me up. And maybe that's what I should have done. But I didn't. I stayed, because I started hearing it even without the radio. The voice, not always speaking, but humming, breathing, like it had become part of the wind that slid through the cracks of my window at night. Sometimes it said my name. Sometimes it repeated coordinates I didn't recognize. Once, it said a single sentence that I still can't forget. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I started tracing spirals in my notebook without realizing, doodling while I filled out weather reports, logging fire hazards, writing patrol schedules. The shapes just appeared like muscle memory. Always clockwise, always ending in a perfect center. Then came the check-ins. Every ranger, even the one stationed hundreds of miles away, started reporting identical transmissions. A voice on the open line. Male. Calm. Soft static around the edges. This is Tower 9. Visibility low. Still watching. Some thought it was a prank. Others refused to comment. But those of us who'd been near the tower, who'd stood at its base or climbed its impossible stairs, we knew. He was still there. Or maybe we were. Some rangers started quitting without explanation. Others stopped showing up for duty. Their towers remained staffed on paper, radios still transmitting static at assigned intervals. When search teams went up, they always found the same thing, nothing. No signs of struggle, no footprints, no bodies, just warm coffee, fresh logs, and spirals drawn on the inside of the glass. One ranger, Jules, left a final recording. He didn't submit it through official channels. He slipped a flash drive into my locker the morning he disappeared. I waited a full day before listening. It was 15 minutes of silence, then breathing, then a voice, low and uneven. If you're hearing this, you've already heard him. That means he knows you. That means you've been marked. Shuffling. A pause. It's not a ghost. It's not a man. It's something that lives inside time like we live inside air. The tower's just the door. He goes quiet again. Then a whisper. And doors open both ways. That was the last anyone heard from Jules. I kept the recording, locked it in a drawer I never opened, because sometimes when I walk past it, I swear I hear the file playing on its own. No speakers, just faint audio bleeding into the room. I tried to quit once, packed my things, drove 2 hours west, past the last service post toward the interstate. And just when I thought I was free of the forest, my radio, turned off, mind you, clicked on. Tower 9 to dispatch. Ranger has gone off-grid. Requesting retrieval. My hands froze on the wheel. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. In the rearview mirror, past the curve of the highway, I saw it. The tower. Not behind me. Ahead. Closer than ever. That's when I realized. You don't leave. Not once you've heard the voice. You just loop. Again and again. Different steps. Same spiral. Now, I keep the routine. I file the reports. I hike the trails. I log the wind and check the soil moisture. But every night, I sleep lighter. I listen harder. And every few days, I get the same check-in on the open channel. Tower 9. Status green. Visibility clear. Still watching. And now, I respond. At first, it was curiosity. Then habit. Now, I don't know why I do it. I just know I have to. Because the one night I didn't answer, I found a set of muddy boot prints circling my tower. 7 full rotations. Clockwise. Same boots as mine. The next morning, written across the inside of the cabin wall, in soot or blood, I couldn't tell, was a message. Silence is consent. Since then, I answer. Always. I don't ask who it is. I don't ask what it wants. I just say, copy Tower 9. I see you. And the voice always responds. Good. Then I'll see you soon. I don't know how many of us are left. The real ones, I mean. Some of the towers keep checking in, but I'm starting to doubt who's on the other end. Maybe they're still human. Maybe they're just echoes. Sometimes I think I died on that staircase. That I never left. That I'm the voice someone else is hearing now. And maybe that's how it works. You listen long enough, and one day, you become the voice. The tower doesn't let you go. It just waits until you forget who you were. Then you check in. Then you say the line. Visibility low. Still watching. And someone on the other end hears it and thinks, that's just a story. That's just a legend. But it isn't. Not really. And tonight, if your radio clicks on by itself and a calm voice whispers your name from a tower that no longer exists, do yourself a favor. Don't answer. Because once you do, you'll never stop. That was today's story. If you made it this far, let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, tell me if you've ever heard of anything similar happening near where you live. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more chilling stories coming your way. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.